Welcome back to another episode of Adventures in Adversity. This is a podcast where we talk to fantastic, resilient people about how they've turned life's trauma into triumph. They've taken adversity and turned it into adventure. And with that, I'd like to welcome you to episode 99. And I'm very, very grateful to have my guest here, Joseph Pennell.
Thank you so
I got it
much.
right. I believe you are also connected to Valeria,
Yes. Yes,
the
yes.
most amazing human.
Yes, she is. She is
Yes.
very excitable. She's fantastic. Posted with her and anything that she does, I get locked in because of how passionate and excited she is to do anything when it comes to mental health and getting your story out and all that. So yeah.
Yeah. What I love about my guests is that every episode I get connected to someone they're connected to somehow without fail. And then it becomes this, I got to talk to him. Oh, I got to talk to her. And then I talk to them and then it leads to another one.
Right.
So
Right.
shout out to her on episode 95. She is doing great things and you are doing great things. When you think about adversity, like what comes to mind in your life when you hear that word?
Adversity to me is I mean, it's different for everybody, right? So it's whatever is intolerable to a particular individual to the point where it forces them to either grow or they collapse. And adversity is for me, I would say my nexus moment, there wasn't really a nexus moment for me. It was I can look at what set me down my current path, which is getting everything out there and speaking about everything that I've been through and when it actually originated. I can look far back when I was a child and I won't even say that there was so much adversity then because I wasn't perceptive to it. My father was an addict. We lived my father was my parents got divorced a couple of times, and so in and out of my life, and I wouldn't even say that was adversity because I didn't know any better. I didn't know the things maybe I was missing, and I was a child that very much kept to himself, and I was almost unaware of my external world because I was so internal.
Yeah.
And so moving forward a little bit, my brother died when I was in high school. So
So sorry.
I appreciate it. I kept my same personality sort of growing up and I was different than my brother. My brother was very loud. He got in trouble. He spoke what was on his mind. I was not. And I didn't have
Yeah.
to be. I didn't have to be because my father was the same way. And he would just say whatever was on his mind. He had a very he's still the same funny individual as he was when I was a kid. It's just he was a different person when he was using versus when he's not, of course. And he's
Yeah.
been clean for many years. But
Awesome.
I was a child who went through um, the struggle of trying to deal with my brother's death and trying to process it as someone who didn't speak about their problems. When you talk about men who act tough, I never thought I was ever acting tough. I
Yeah.
unfortunately on paper, I did the military thing. I worked in a prison. I did all these things that were from the outside looking in very tough.
Hmm.
But to me, I never looked at myself that way. However, I held everything in. So classic symptom of tough guy who didn't want to let anything out. And my adversity was I dealt with my brother's death in the way that I dealt with it. So I postponed adversity in a weird
Uh,
way.
mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I dealt
Mm-hmm.
with it and I didn't know how to process it. I kept everything in. I had health problems as a result of it, sort of moving down the line with all the stress that I was dealing with, but keeping things contained, and my my personality shifted. My identity was based around who I was starting to become, and there was a lot of good things in my personality, and there was a lot of horrible things in my personality. And
Yeah.
I was just not being myself for a very long time. And it took the turn with alcoholism, and it was a very slow buildup. But
Yeah.
I would say there was definitely a difference between the version of me that drank to cope and the version of me that drank when I was social.
Mhm.
And I never blended those two people. So the person that drank a lot by himself was never the person that drank a lot socially. I could shut off that version of me because I wasn't drinking to cope. I wasn't drinking to shut things off.
Ah, you were out there socializing like, normal, just doing your thing. So you would then, um, do the more heavy drinking alone, would you say?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was just very persistent. It was I would drink to shut off the emotions, and alcohol does a very great job of that. So it's a weird thing where that solution became my biggest problem, one of my biggest problems,
Yeah.
because I drank to shut it off. And then at some point, my my use for alcohol transitioned to I needed to drink to have emotions because I something happened. I don't know. I know I've seen several movies and I've talked about this before where I would watch a
Yeah.
movie that wasn't supposed to be sad and something would trigger me with my brother's death
Mhm.
and I would start crying and I'm just thinking to myself, kind of laughing, but thinking to myself, this isn't even a sad movie. It's actually a comedy and I'm sitting here crying. And I was uncomfortable with that. I wanted it, but I was uncomfortable with it because I didn't know what to
Mm.
do. And so I would continue to drink to get things out. But I couldn't do that in public. I had
Mhm.
to drink by myself if I was doing it
Ah.
to get my emotions out. And it became sort of twofold. I would drink to shut off the thoughts, shut
Mhm.
down the anxiety,
Mhm.
and then turn on the emotions, which alleviated some of the anxiety. But I kept it going so much that
Uh-huh.
I became addicted. And then
Yeah.
I started building my life around drinking because I started to anticipate these feelings. And then I needed it before I needed it.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that, and again, I'm really, really sorry for the loss of your brother.
Yeah.
Um, I know, time, of course, you process over time, but that's something, it just stays with you, the loss of a family member, and so I appreciate you openly talking about it, because I know a lot of listeners who are human beings have grief, right? And grief can be quite debilitating, right? Um,
Yes, I can. And I'm I'm reminded of something my father would tell me, and he would say there's no wrong way to grieve. And for the longest time when I was drinking a lot, I'm like, yeah, except this one. And then I realized it actually clicked probably a month ago where I thought to myself, not that there was any anticipation that my course of action for grieving would be to drink a lot, but he's still correct because there's no wrong way to grieve as long as you're actually grieving. And I was using it to not grieve until I wanted to feel emotions. But at that point, it already got out
yeah,
of hand. So it still applies. There is no wrong way, but you still have to go through it. And I
yeah,
wasn't for way too long.
yeah. if you don't mind me asking, how old were you when the drinking kind of became something that was out of control?
I would say I was mid-30s. So I'm 41 now. And I would say that out of control in terms of the amount that I would drink. I would say for a very long time, even prior to that, I was drinking for the wrong reason. So there was always a problem.
Right, that's a
But
good point.
yeah, but
That's a good
I
point.
didn't, when I was married at the time, I would only drink on the weekends. She didn't like my drinking. And so
Mm,
I would only drink on the weekends. And I would start to fill up the weekend. And it became more and more, even on that weekend, because, there's a part of me that's like, okay, if I'm going to do it on the weekends, I'm going to get, because I'm struggling all week. I'm
yeah.
going to get it in on the weekend. And then it, so it, it built up prior to when I got divorced and I was by myself and there was no accountability for me whatsoever. And then it became every single day. It was every day.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so oddly enough, after I got divorced and was looking for a new place to live, I stayed with a friend of mine for about a month as I was waiting for my apartment to be ready.
Mhm.
And we went through dry January, and which is odd for somebody who's struggling with alcohol.
Yeah.
I felt great doing it. It was the first time in a long time, except for a military deployment, where I just didn't drink. And I felt great doing it because there's always been a part of me that knew or felt, I didn't know,
Mhm,
I would stop.
mhm.
That enough would be enough, that I couldn't do this forever. And so, but also knowing that once January is up,
R
it helps you get through that moment where you can't do it because there's an end to it. And so
yes.
a lot of people
Yes.
that struggle with not drinking their sobriety now, it's because of that thought that this is forever. And so
Mhm.
I think I held on for 5 weeks. And then I'm like, you know what? Time to celebrate with a drink.
Yeah.
And so that, on top of moving in by myself and having all those emotions and not knowing what to do with them, my drinking became really heavy. It, it spiraled out of control to the point where I couldn't recognize myself anymore.
Tough moments in the mirror.
I wouldn't know. I never looked in the mirror, and I'm being
Uh,
completely honest with myself. I mean, with you.
you couldn't hold your own gaze, huh? Like
No,
that, like, it was too real.
I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed by
Mhm,
myself. Um, I've always been very analytical. I've always looked at my own behavior and saw things through a lens of, I've always tried to figure things out, which is kind of what brought me to where I am now and the way that I go about sobriety from a very analytical lens. And so I would look at myself when I actually would catch my gaze.
mhm,
I would look and I would be so embarrassed because I'm looking at two different individuals. The actual individual who's struggling so heavily, I couldn't look in my eyes because I would probably start crying.
mhm,
And
mhm.
also looking how far I strayed from that person that could always figure out a problem. And knowing that I had failed myself, couldn't deal with my own failure. Even if nobody knew that I was failing, I knew. I'm
Mhm.
like, everybody's their own biggest critic.
Yeah.
I am my biggest critic. I am my biggest judge. Nobody judged me as harshly as I did. And I
Mhm.
had all of the resources, all of the insider information to know exactly what I was judging. And I couldn't let go of any of it. any of the little bits of information about myself that I so hated. I knew
Mm,
all, and it would just like a Rolodex. It would just keep on going through, and there was nothing stopping me from feeling that way about myself for a long time.
mhm. Yeah. Well, what you said reminds me in my last episode, Mark Beer talks about like our different self states and how different self states kind of step forward in life. And it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, even when you were heavy in your addiction, there was your the self you are now, the true self, you know, was like there. It was just maybe tied up in a chair being like, we don't have to do this, right? But you couldn't sit down and have a talk with that true self for long enough because it was like too much shame, and it was difficult. Like I, I just, I can relate to that, the struggle of having a knowing deep down, but not being able to like face it yet.
Couldn't tap into it for a long time. It was always poking through. That
Yes.
part of me was always poking through in it. It poked through in several ways. I would coach kids and help my friend coach kids for basketball, and I loved the idea of giving. And when
Hmm.
I was the most active is when I felt the best. And so me being active and doing these things and being a good person,
Hmm.
not trying to be a good person, just it
Being it.
coming out,
Yeah.
it pulled that version out of me.
Mm,
Unfortunately, the moment, and I talk about this kind of stuff a lot, where it's like the ecosystem that you surround yourself with, your environment. Once I was in a different environment that required me to step up, I could step up, and I could step up in a big way and bring out the best of myself. But once I moved out of that environment into that familiarity that I was accustomed to feeling as horribly as I was feeling, it was automatic. And so, no, I couldn't confront the other parts of myself
yeah.
because there were too many pulling in too many different directions. I still hadn't processed the grief. I still hadn't processed the shame of what I was doing. And these were all like little individuals that were, well, I want attention now. I want attention now. And
Exactly.
no, you're not going to get it. Not from me. Um, and so I could only be that that person, the part of myself that was my true self for so long, because that version, although it occupied a good chunk of who I was, it was also the weakest.
Mhm.
So sneak through, and then I would just whack them all and down. Like, you got to go back in your cave because these other parts of me are the more dominant ones right now. Mm.
Yes.
So
I am so, my mind is blown by the concept in psychology of the different parts, and then how different parts step forward to try to protect you. They're trying. That part of you that wanted to drink was trying to protect you from the realness of life, which comes with pain, right? Um, but I mean, I wish I knew about the parts thing before, because now I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so clear. Like different ones step forward, but yet there is always the authentic you fighting to like take center stage, because that's when you're happiest and most fulfilled.
yeah,
But with that comes the risk of pain that you have to feel, right?
absolutely.
Um, tell me about when you had those moments. If somebody's listening right now and maybe they're active in addiction and they know they're addicted, Or they're hearing this and they're like, "Okay, yeah, maybe I'm using alcohol or using drugs to numb this." Um, Tell me about the what it felt like when you had those brief moments of while you were in addiction where the true self would step forward.
So it's interesting because, you know, only the individual knows the extent to which they use something to cope. And to kind of tie it back to what you were just talking about with the different selves coming up to sort of protect you, one of the best ways, and the great thing about understanding that information is it normalizes your experience. Like, oh, if I look at what those parts of me were attempting to do, it makes more sense why I would act and respond in a certain way, because it was just trying to protect me.
Yes.
And so if you look at those different parts of you, so you can't, I could never analyze the good part of me without analyzing all those other parts in me. So if I would look at those other parts that were sneaking through or taking the dominant role and trying to protect me, and I would look at that and say, what are you trying to protect? What
Mm,
what is your function right now? What
so good.
yeah, it so if you take what the function is, and for me, it was quelling the anxiety, slowing the thoughts down to a point that was tolerable for me.
Mhm.
How do I get that in another way? So if it's trying to protect me, great. Obviously, I need protecting.
Right.
But can I get this protection in a different way? And that's sort of how you sort of fast forward,
Yeah.
remove some of the shame from what you're going through, and normalize your experience and your feelings and start to forgive yourself, because those things were all there for a reason. Now to get back to exactly what you were asking,
Yeah.
when those moments crept through, reminded me who I was supposed to be. Now, keep in mind, with who I'm supposed to be, it was still nowhere near what I'm supposed to be now
Sure.
as I start to go through my process. There's the two ends of the spectrum where those parts would creep up, and I would look at how I feel. I would
Mhm.
look at how relaxed I am, how I'm able to handle problems when I'm my best self. In those moments where those that part of me crept in, I could handle the little nuances throughout the day, and tolerate certain things a lot better because I'm in a better mental state.
Yeah.
So I can see the difference between that version and those other versions that were more dominant. They wanted nothing to do with any type of inconvenience that would happen to me in any given day. And so if I was able to sort of plot, and again, this is just the analytical brain in here.
Mhm.
If I was able to plot those personalities on a graph and see the vast differences between all of those different types of personalities, and where they would fall, and how much better I would feel within some of those personalities, it didn't help me to necessarily get sober seeing the difference. Um, like it pushed me to a point where I was less tolerant of those versions of myself, because I was letting myself down too much. And I was starting to fail at the things in my life that throughout my addiction I had always maintained. I had always maintained fitness. I had
Yep.
always done certain things. And when those last things that I was maintaining would start to crack and fall off, that was the final straw.
Yeah.
So understanding who you are sort of at a baseline, to where if you start dropping below that, and my baseline would dip little by little
Yeah.
all the time, but
Yeah.
there is a, I would say that's kind of where that bottom is. Your bottom is whatever moment you decide to turn it back on, That's your bottom. Some people's bottoms, unfortunately, they're no longer here. Uh,
Yeah.
some people would have hit that bottom had they not have gone too far, because you almost can't. Once you start something, you don't know how far you're going to take it at any given time. Maybe they wouldn't have gone that far, but they were out of control. And so everybody's bottom is different. It's whatever point
Mhm.
you're at where you say sort of enough is enough, but you still have to have the tools or a way out, or else that bottom's going to continue to keep going down. So
Mm.
one thing that I had said in a video a long time ago was, I don't care if somebody starts to look up information about how to get sober when they're drunk, when they're in that,
Ah.
I'll say clear, drunk mind, but
Uh-huh.
when they're not fighting for their life and can't think of anything else but the drink, but when they're more calm and they have those doubts about what they're doing, start looking up the information. Like,
Mhm.
start understanding what your way out might be. And even if you don't act on it,
Mhm.
we're just at a point for someone who's still in active addiction, you're still at a point where you're trying to figure out what your off ramp is and where
I
it is.
love that. I love
Yes.
that.
So if you have to compile all this information so that by the time you're ready and maybe that extra information sort of prompts you, then you have the off ramp. You've already built it up. But it's difficult. It's still difficult, right? It's still difficult to say,
Yeah.
why don't you do work while you're
Mm.
drunk? But
Right?
I mean, that's sort of what
Y
I did, but that's me. So
Well, it's maybe that enabled you to almost like you get like, flashes of hope, and maybe that came when you're at a low state, but, like, maybe you get a flash and then you're back to unhealthy behavior, and then you get another flash,
yeah,
but those flashes are really important, and what I like that you said in one of your videos about relapsing too, and just, like, that you're gonna have setbacks and it's okay. It's that harsh, mean critic that's the problem,
yeah,
I feel like, right? And one thing you said too on one of your other, reels that I was watching, you said the hardest step might be that first one, maybe getting off the couch or putting the bottle down, because what you're stepping into is not like you don't just step into, "Oh, I'm recovered because I decided I'm recovered now." It's like, I gotta step into, like, dark blackness of how I don't know what this is. That first step of recovery was probably terrifying, but
yeah,
it's the step on the right, it's at least moving towards the on-ramp.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And to touch on a couple of those, when it comes to the relapse, now there's two different thoughts that come with that, where you don't go into your sobriety sort of giving yourself the excuse that it's okay, I'm going to have setbacks, therefore it's okay, I'll slip
It's
up.
okay.
And
Yeah.
but but it is understanding that when you make a mistake, it's part of the process. You are not supposed to be perfect. And some people relapse with their thought process. They're not necessarily drinking,
Mm,
but they're actively still thinking the same way that they used to. Or maybe they're still in the same environment and they're surrounding themselves with the people and the same things that, that's just as bad as, in some ways,
yeah.
as an actual relapse, because you're setting yourself up for that failure. But if you're really attempting to get this right, and you happen to fall off, you don't want to stay stuck in this shame loop. You have to try to be, you don't have to be, try to be a little bit more realistic about what this process looks like. What you want to do is stop the bleeding as fast as possible. How quickly
Mm.
can I put that bottle down after I pick it up? And, I've talked to some people that have relapse, and I'm very honest and upfront and realistic about it, and they tell me what happened. I'm like, "All right, did you make it count? Like, did you go all out and have fun? All right, well, tomorrow you gotta cut the or right now you gotta cut the shit and get back to where you were, because you can't stay stuck in this shame loop expecting to be perfect." So, understanding that you are gonna screw up,
Mhm.
and that is a part of the reality of anything that you attempt to do, any new habit you attempt
Yes,
to break
yes.
or add to your life. This just happens to be a one that's more detrimental to your health and your mental health, but all the habits work the same way. And you can't expect to go to the
Yeah.
gym and be perfect. You can't expect to read, 5 books a week if that's your goal. And some weeks you're going to fall off and you're still failing on your goal. You're still failing on your new habit. But the quicker you get back at it, instead of saying, "Oh, maybe this is not for me," well, let's try to build that momentum back, because we don't want to stay stuck in that process. Sorry, I
It
went off tangent so far.
No, hello, my middle name is Tangent. I don't know if
Oh,
you
perfect.
noticed, but, I'm like, "Squirrel." Like, I'm so all over the place. Everybody knows that. They're like, "Bree, Bree," and I'm like, "Sorry, what?"
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Where were we?
um, but what I really love about what you said, it reminds me of something I heard at, like, a business conference once, which was so, like, life applicable. This guy who was doing he was on the web team for Southwest.com, and I used to do, like, web content stuff, and he was like, Southwest, this is like 10 years ago, super cool app. And it was like, wow, like this is the guy who does the website and booking flights. And how does he get it to be this good? And he's like, we fail a lot. And here's the trick. He goes, fail fast,
Get it out of
fail
the way.
fast and fail forward. And I'm like, I remember being like, you fail? And this was like before I knew that it's okay to fail. I was like, what do you mean you fail? You're Southwest. You can't fail. Like people can't book their flight. Like, I love that he was like, you're going to fail. Like, fail fast. And I was like, "Oh, okay." Um, so it's
But you
like,
need
how
to hear
long
it
do you
from those people.
I
You
was
need to
like,
hear
"I thought you're perfect. You're big corporate guy. What are you talking?"
Yeah,
Again,
if you fail, you're fired. What are you talking
you're
about?
done. It's all I thought if you were doing well, you were pretty much perfect with, like, maybe one failure because you put people up like, "Oh, that guy's probably never been sad. That guy has never failed. He's a big, whatever." And it's like, no, they actually fail a ton. They make friends with failure. And I just remember mine being like, "We can fail? Oh shit. Okay." Um, well, I hope somebody listening, if they have relapsed or they just feel like shit about something right now that they said or did, or they're like, just acknowledge it. And then, like, you don't have it's so easy, but you don't have to beat yourself up. It
You
doesn't
don't.
make you, like, more honorable to be like, "I'm a piece of shit," you know? It
Right.
doesn't,
I,
right?
I will say I will say this to anybody who is struggling with those things. I am very well aware that I speak a certain way, that especially in like a corporate setting, people like the way that I speak.
Mhm.
And I put myself together a certain way that people look at me and they have some of those similar
Yeah.
ideas that you do.
Yeah.
That there's no way that you might struggle.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I am the most neurotic individual. I treated myself like such trash, even if nobody else knew. I was so good at hiding it.
Mhm.
I fail every single day. Every day. I don't care how successful I am at sobriety. When your metric for success is not drinking, I am I'm batting 1,000 right now,
Mhm.
right? So
Congrats.
my metric for success to me is now completely just not drinking. So with that, I fail every single day. The the goal is to increase your odds. The goal is to, like you said, fail fast. If I fail 10 times today, because that's a realistic number on all the things that I'm attempting to do right now in my life,
Yeah.
I better have given myself the opportunity to be successful 50 more times in that given day. And I don't care how
Mm.
small that goal is. I don't care if that goal is getting here on time, because
Yes.
everything that you do that you consciously are aware of that you're doing, I'm going to, and I use the gym stuff,
It's
just 'cause
so it's
it's
life
easy.
altering, yeah.
If my goal is to do this and I hit the numbers and I've done enough of the work, and that's a success for me. If I fail at something else, even within the context of that workout, it's okay. Whereas before, I am more worried about failing at things that I made a promise to myself about. All the other stuff can go out the window. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
You just try to do better as you go, but I'm going to fail again tomorrow.
Mhm.
I'm just hoping that I give myself many more opportunities to say, you know what? We still have momentum.
Mhm.
I don't care if I was knocked back a little bit by this moment, we still have momentum.
Yeah.
Um, I've been depressed since getting sober. I've had moments where I've had so much anxiety. I have anxiety every day, right?
Mhm.
But I've had some moments where, and this happened a few months back, where I was done for the entire weekend. It was a 3-day weekend. I had Friday off and I ruined it because my anxiety was so high that I wasn't eating. My stomach was
Mm.
all messed up, and I just felt like such crap, and I didn't know when it was going to end.
Mhm.
And the only goal that I could set is don't drink. And so I looked at that and said, all right, I don't take medication for anxiety. I'm not for or against it. So
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
use, don't use my example. But I had to look at that and say, what can I pull from that to still create momentum? Because I feel like crap. And the only momentum I could pull is that I went through this. I would have drank for much less. I would have drank
Yeah.
from the idea that I would have anxiety.
Oh,
And so, winner, winner.
winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Absolutely.
No,
Absolutely.
the failure thing when you talk about it reminds me of 2 things. Um, One, my dad always used to say, I grew up playing softball, he'd be like, "Bree, if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're considered a great hitter."
Yes.
And I'm like I
Absolutely.
remember being like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh, that's 300. Holy shit, you, like, fail a lot.
You felt a lot. You felt a
Like, you
lot.
strike out a lot."
Yeah.
And then you get if you're good 3 out of the 10 or 4 out of the 10, you're like all-star game.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm like, "Interesting." That always stuck with me. And then
Yeah.
the other person that came to mind who you know is Valeria, when she said on one of the clips that I posted, she goes, "Even if you couldn't get out of bed that day, you give yourself a hug and you say, if someone's like, oh, your inner voice is going, well, what did you do today? What did you do, you lazy piece of shit, you know?" I've told myself that. She said, you hug yourself and you say, you know what I did? I did my best.
Yeah.
I did my best. I didn't
Yeah.
do jack shit, but I stayed in this bed and I stayed alive.
Yes. It's very
That's
simple.
it.
It's very simple.
I
I
stayed
used to laugh
here.
at those things. I used to laugh at the idea of, you know, uh, positive affirmations and just this general kindness that we have. Like, I'm very sarcastic. I'll still call myself a piece of shit, but I'll do it in jest. But I even watch myself now when I do that because
It's not good.
it's not good and
Mm-mm.
words do matter. Words do
They
matter.
do.
So I would say that, and just to kind of tie it into the whole failure theme, is that even when I have like anxiety, even when I feel bad about myself or I don't want to get out of bed, the goal for me in those moments is to decrease the amount of time that I'm in that. And that becomes for me success because I still don't know completely how to feel, like how to have all these emotions. And
Yeah.
so it's going to come out in ways that I'm not expecting. And sometimes it's going to come out as anxiety. Sometimes it's going to come out as little mini bouts of depression
Mhm.
where I just feel a certain way. And so if I can shorten up how I feel, then at least I can say, you know what? You felt those things, you allowed yourself to, but you didn't stay stuck. And that's really what you want to do.
Yeah.
You don't want
Yeah.
to block it all out. That's not good either, obviously. Um, but you don't want to feel everything for so long that you're stuck in your own head and your emotions. And
Yeah. Yeah. When if someone is listening as and I'm always thinking, there's so many moments here where I just think of light bulbs going on around the world for the people that will be listening to this in 2 weeks, and, like, the potential ripple effect of what you're saying that you have no idea could hit someone's ear pods and change the course of their entire life.
love it.
So
I
I
hope
mean,
so.
literally, it's like because I guarantee you someone would look at you and go, "That guy doesn't have anxiety. He doesn't have anxiety. He's he's articulate, he's helping people. His anxiety's gone. He's that was in the past." However, it's called being a human, and that's I've struggled with anxiety my whole life too. And then people go, "Shut up. You're like, and I'm like, "No, that's anxiety is it's something I have to manage, you
Yeah.
know?" And for you, I'm curious what your symptoms are of when you know, when you feel it.
So my symptoms are my heart's racing. I feel an uneasiness in my chest and my stomach. I've had stomach issues. Uh, it usually starts being accompanied by racing thoughts, and it's kind of going bing, 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 bing. Um, but it's this general uneasiness in the pit of my stomach, like at the top of a roller coaster. And how that's manifested for me is I've had alopecia because of holding things in.
Yeah.
Um, I have stomach issues, um, mostly manageable because of the anxiety that I feel. Um, a lot of it now, because again, I get it every day. It's typically at a very low level to where I'm like, "Hello, old friend.
Hi. Yeah.
You're still with me. Good, good. Thanks for
I'm
the
alive.
yeah, thanks for the healthy reminder." But I feel it. You know, when I have anxiety that I would say is like legitimate and not, let me take that back.
Yeah.
None of
And
it's legitimate, but when I feel it's for a reason that's not tied to like my mental health,
uh-huh.
it, for like public speaking, I used to get such bad anxiety for public speaking to where I almost passed out
Mm.
several times. And because I was an intelligence analyst in the military, and I selected that job number one because oh, intel, it's so cool. Uh, you learn all these different things, and that's got to be cool. But I
Yeah.
knew it came along with public speaking, and so
Ah.
I knew I would be forced to deal with that and I would have to get better at it. But the first couple times I did it, the first one I ever gave, this was like a pre-deployment brief, and I was talking to all the important people, and I was up on the stage, and I gave the brief, and I was had my hand on the podium,
You
and
you almost fell over.
I'm just talking. By the time I was done, my mouth got was so dry. By the time I was done, there were seats directly in front of me. I just kind of um, turned, put my hand in the seat, and sat down. And like nobody's any the wiser. But I was like
You were
seeing
dying inside.
seeing stars, like, and that happened to me one other time. I mean, it happened to me on lower levels during that
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
but my anxiety will manifest in whatever way is probably going to embarrass me the most, is kind of how I look at it. Like it's out to attack me. It's out to attack me.
Yeah.
Um, but when I went into rehab, when I put myself in rehab, they gave me anxiety medication um, every day. And after day 3, I was still in detox. After no, it wasn't through detox. I had anxiety medication. A couple days after detox, when I went in residency, I told them I didn't want it anymore. And I told them I'm in a safe space. I want to deal
Uh-huh.
with it.
I wanna feel it.
Yeah. I wanted to finally feel something.
Mhm.
And
That's
I moved.
brave.
It's it's how I approach sobriety in a much different way than a lot of other people. In that I I don't I look more at the science part of it. Yeah. Um, but I am I am someone who's gonna try to look through such um an analytic lens and try to figure out the best way to get myself healthy here and not rely on anything else. Like I know I
Yeah.
need other people. I
Sure.
know I
Of
do.
course.
But I I don't want to rely on a meeting. I don't want to rely on a book. I don't want to rely on even religion.
Mhm.
I've always been very because I used to go to meetings with my father every now and again because he was always in it. And
Mhm.
so, you know, I always had a hard time with the idea of just this whole powerlessness thing. And I've talked about this and I'm like, yes, it is semantics. I know I had to give away my power. I know that there's certain things I can't control.
Sure.
But in order for me to be successful at this, I had to at least get some agency back. I had to I had to pull from and reignite the internal motivation that I would need in order to be successful at this. And so it required for me much more than just saying, I'm going to give up everything that I do to
Yeah.
higher power. And I would just say stupid things like, that's very selfish of me to put everything on, you know, put everything on God and say, he's got this. Like, no, I need to got this.
Mm. I
So
see what you're saying, though. It's like that it almost feels like, and tell me if I'm wrong here, you have a knowing that that authentic self is, like, is strong. Maybe?
yeah,
Like like, I don't tell me, is it like you wanted that maybe that authentic self that's been peeking through is like, "Give me a chance. Just give me a
yes,
chance to be the leader, and then give me a contract role, and then you can take full time if I perform well."
right, right. It is that. It's
Yeah.
it's the idea for me that I don't I don't want to live in a bubble.
Uh,
You know,
yeah.
so um I've been around alcohol now. I've had alcohol right there. I've and Nobody tried this, but I've smelled it when someone says this is a good wine. I'm like, well, what the hell does it smell like? Um, and I'm not drawn to it anymore. And that's just me. But
Yeah.
I never wanted people to shape their life around my issues. I never wanted to feel like I couldn't have some semblance of control.
Mhm.
And knowing that, yes, this is an addiction. Yes, there's parts of my brain that have adapted to continue this, to keep the addiction going. There are
Mhm.
certain things that I can make my brain readapt with to adjust to a new life. And
Mm.
so there's ways that I can strengthen myself and also remove all of these sorts of pitfalls that would cause me to want to drink or to try to cope with life or and understand myself to such a deep on such a deep personal level that there's almost nothing that will happen to me and
Mhm.
or never say never and um that I'm not at least mentally have prepared for and so
I love that. You have your own back. Like, you're like it reminds me of 2 things. One, Jordan Peterson says, "If you're scared of something, you gotta look the dragon in the face." You gotta look at it and be like, "Look at me." Not like, I can't be around dragons." And I'm not judging if you really can't be around alcohol.
right,
I am not, uh, well educated in addiction to know what please don't take that the wrong way, anyone listening. But psychology-wise, Jordan Peterson, who I love, says, "Fear and it'll keep chasing you until you look at it."
yep,
Right? I mean,
agree,
at least for me, and it might be
agree,
terrifying when you look at it, but you're looking at it, and the second thing it reminded me of is another one of your reels that you posted that I thought was really cool, where you said, looking at a drink, like physically looking if there's like a drink sitting next to me, is it's not drinking. It's and then the same way you have a negative thought come in, I'm looking at it. I don't have to take it.
right,
And I was
right,
like, oh my gosh, that's such a good point. Because it's there. The
yeah,
dragons are flying around, the thoughts are coming in, and you're like, "Cool. You don't get to control me, but I'm not gonna avoid looking at you."
right, right. It was so that idea, and when I say idea, I mean the thought about when we think about drinking as people that have struggled, if anybody has struggled with alcohol or has already gotten sober, they've probably had dreams about alcohol. They've probably had thoughts where they're considering taking a drink.
Mhm.
I it brought up the idea of having a dream to my therapist, and this therapist I met when she came to speak when I was in rehab,
Mhm.
and so I love her because I no longer see her because I moved, but
Yeah.
she spoke in rehab and she said, she's like, I grew up as a feminist. I hated men. And I'm like, and when she spoke, she, she is so, when I talk about analytical and very deep, I loved everything she was talking about. And so I thought to myself, she hates men or she hated men. Um, that means if I say something to her and she thinks I'm being untruthful or I'm just not thinking about it the right way, she's going to call bullshit so hard. Perfect. Sign me up. So I asked her, I said, will you be my therapist? And she said, yeah, I just happen to have an opening. And she was fantastic because, and she did that. She didn't hold back,
Mhm.
but um, she would, when I asked her about, I had a dream about alcohol and she said to me, well, didn't you have good times with alcohol? Yeah. Okay. So your dreams are recollections of not just bad stuff, but good stuff as well. So why
Mm.
wouldn't your brain recall a time when you had alcohol and it was a good time? And
Ah.
And was the dream about drinking or was just there alcohol there? And I said, oh, there's just alcohol there. Well, you're focusing too much on it. It's not even the main part of the dream. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And so
Yeah.
I I am just I'm big on the idea that we can have any negative thought, right? And it's gonna be what you do with them. And you have to forgive your first thoughts. You have to um try to understand them,
Mhm.
but it's gonna be what you do with it. I don't care if you're the worst person in the world. If you're the worst person in the world up here, but then you can look at those thoughts and like, that's not the way I want to act, and you behave like the best person in the world, you're gonna be the best person in the world. Like it doesn't matter what your thoughts are.
Mhm.
So I I look at my life now and I think there's gonna be alcohol around me. There's gonna be negativity around me. Sometimes
Mhm.
that negativity is gonna be me. I can't focus so hard on the external things that I can't control and the first thoughts that I can't control.
Mm.
Those things are not hurting me. They're not hurting me. My behavior can hurt me. That's it.
Mm.
So, and if I ruminate on those negative thoughts, that can hurt me. But that's a behavior because that's conscious. It's conscious. The first thought is not, it's just popping up. But the rumination, you're consciously doing it, even if it started from an unconscious space.
That's so good. I'm processing that right now for my own. I'm pretending this is therapy and I'm processing that. I'm literally
Yes,
like,
yes.
when my guests like say something, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's gonna follow me for a few days. There's always this time where I'm like, never thought about it like that. I've never
I
thought
think
about
I
it
know
like that.
the was it the reel or the picture with the Heineken thing in the back? Because I might have done it more than once, but I think that was
Yes, that was it.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
You
It's
don't have to take the bait.
you don't,
You
you
don't have to
don't,
take
and
the bait.
like I think that I'm still the same person I was in terms of personality, in terms of sense of humor, and just being realistic. Um, I will talk about the good times drinking with people that I used to drink with that are still friends of mine. I will
Sure.
talk about these types of things, and I am there's no part of me that wants to shut any of that down because I right now for me, and again, this is just me. This is not
Mhm.
for anybody else to take. Is like, hey, I should do that. I never want to be in a space where I can't be my authentic self and talk about these things and be so impacted by them that I have to forget memories or you know.
Yeah.
But it was difficult. It was difficult to get there because when I came out of rehab, I would test myself. Don't do that. Don't do that. So when I say test myself, I would do very simple things where I would intentionally walk by the alcohol sections in grocery stores and see how I feel. Don't do that.
Mm.
I would drive by and point out the liquor stores when I would see them instead of avoiding them. So
Mhm. Mhm.
because I wanted to know what I was thinking. And
Mm.
so the first time my mother invited me to go watch her play darts or pool, it was in a VFW bar. And I think I had been out of rehab for 3 weeks, a month.
Ooh,
And I
yeah.
got there and it probably took her about an hour. She's like, was this bad? I'm like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You're the biggest sweetheart in the world. Like, I'll,
Yeah.
I'll, I'll follow you to the depths of hell and um, but there, the bartender who was a friend of my mother's and who I knew, she's like, I hadn't seen you in so long. You gotta have a shot and a beer. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. But I would sit there And the first table I sat at was a table that people had left abandoned, and there was just a drink there. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the drink, and it's like no further than this can, you know, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, is this doing anything for me? What am I thinking? And luckily for me, I didn't have any compelling desire to drink it, but I would constantly ask myself these questions. And then I would
Mm,
constantly test what it's like to have to tell somebody that I don't drink or that I'm sober. And I made a reel about this as well. And
yeah.
some people thought it was BS, but when the bartender asked me if I was an alcoholic, and you know, that's when I realized that I didn't care. And I didn't care if within reason that I might be forced to, and you're never forced, but to say that you're sober.
Uh-huh.
And the first time had to say, yeah, I'm an alcoholic, and I'm saying it in a bar, which is weird by itself. Like it's a restaurant, but there was a bar and watching a game
At
with
the
a friend
bar.
of mine.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I had to go through that moment. And I had always tested myself in those types of ways to where I think that it almost opened my eyes, matured me in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't recommend that for anybody because uh, I'm very stubborn, and I had to know. I had to know whether or not I was going to struggle in this type of way or not,
Mm-hmm.
whether I would have to
Mm-hmm.
avoid things or not.
Yeah.
So,
And no, and I think it's really important that you're saying too, like, this is how you navigated it, and you're giving your perspective and what knowing yourself and what you needed. It sounds like there isn't a specific road to recovery that everyone must follow in order to achieve it. It's it's adapted. There's a lot of factors that go into that. Um, but I just appreciate your like how open you're being because it must be challenging for someone who is who is maybe thinking about stopping drinking or has just stopped and is like, "Oh, how do I say it? What do I don't want to be the, buzzkill, the not fun one or like and
yeah,
you made a reel about like it's maybe it's okay to feel uncomfortable at the thought of having to answer that question.
yeah,
It doesn't
yeah,
mean you're like, oh, you're weak or you're never gonna like it's actually probably to be expected.
yeah.
It's
There's a
uncomfortable
couple of
or
ways
it's
that I've looked at
weird.
those. What's that?
Yeah. It's weird it must be weird or challenging to say that when you're used to using alcohol in a certain way and then you're saying, "I don't drink," and then you're worried about or not, you probably aren't now, but you're like, "Are they gonna make fun of me? Are they gonna be like, 'Oh, sorry,' and is it gonna get weird? Am I gonna like"
It's tough.
right?
It's tough. It's tough because you don't know that there's power at the end of it. You don't know that there's confidence and strength at the end of it. There is a
Yes.
lot of power in the ability to just say or not succumb to what you might be perceiving as pressure. It might not even be pressure.
It
It's
might
just too
not be.
close. It's
It's
just too
just a
close.
question.
And so I typically like to broach those types of subjects from multiple vantage points because depending on where somebody's at, I always want to get somebody to the point of this doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of my life, being able to say I don't drink or I'm sober, it's like you would turn down um fish or shellfish if you're allergic to it, or you would turn down any activity that you just don't
Yes.
do. It's the same thing, but you have this shame or
Ah,
embarrassment because you know deep down why you can't have it. So it
that's
brings
where the
about that
shame
shame.
is.
So
Ah,
you don't, it's difficult for some people because it's almost written on their face when they say it. Like, no, I don't want to have a drink or I can't drink. And so I give people the honest reality of it to where it doesn't matter. In the end, it doesn't matter. You can say almost anything.
Mhm.
But also, if the only thing stopping you, and I get pushed back a decent amount for this type of stuff, but if the only thing stopping you is your ability to navigate that situation, that's where I'll say, hey, the fourth best part of fitness is having a built-in excuse to not drink. Like now you can say why you don't drink. Um, or
Gotta work
coming up
out
with,
early.
yeah, coming up with any number of reasons. Like if that's what's going to push you along until you get to the point, don't do that forever. Don't do that
Right.
forever. But until you get to the
Yeah.
point where you're like, you know what? I just don't care anymore I I don't have to say I'm sober. I can just say I don't drink. I don't have to say anything. People will just understand that I don't drink or I'm good. Like now when somebody asks me um, if I want to drink, I'm also and that's it. If you say it with
Yeah.
confidence,
It's
who's gonna
not
peer pressure you?
and you also had a great reel about that where you said you might lose some friends, which a friend I've learned this through many situations. They don't give a shit. They want you to be happy. They
Yeah,
don't want you to be like them or do what they're doing. They're like, I love this line, like when a friend says, like, I love that for you. I love it. Good for
yeah,
you. Or if somebody makes fun of you for it, bye. Bye.
right,
Bye. Thank you for showing me who you are so I don't have to waste my time
right,
on you anymore.
yeah, yeah. Uh, It's it's the sad reality of it, and so I think that if anybody knows eventually they're going to stop drinking or stop doing whatever, it doesn't even have to be drinking. They're going to lose people. You're going to lose friends along the way anyway. Nobody wants to hear that because it's like telling a 16-year-old that the girl you're dating in high school, you're not going to stay together forever. Like so it's they don't
Yeah.
want to hear that. So
Yeah.
we're just bigger children when it comes to you're going to lose some friends. No, of course I can't. Like I've known this person forever. Well, that's fine, but they may not stick around. You may not have control over that. They may not be good for you if you stop doing the one thing that you have in common with them. The reality is you're going to lose some people. It's not mandatory. One of the closest friends that I have came to visit me in rehab and he brews beer. Like, so, you know, they still drink when I go see him, although they don't drink as much anymore, not because of
Yeah.
me, but I was never because of the way I think and the fact that I'm very analytical, I don't necessarily like small talk. So when I am
Same.
really close to friends, typically we're friends because of a much deeper type of relationship. So it's
Yeah.
it's never typically we became friends. I've had friends like this where we were just friends because we drank or they just happened to
Yeah.
be there.
Sure.
Um, and they're gonna fade away. I've had people that I didn't expect to fade away, that I thought we were closer.
That's hard. It's
Yeah,
hard, but it happens.
it happens. And I've had people just not support or, you know, when I came out of rehab, the people that I thought would care, they didn't. And that
Mm.
bothered me a great deal.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
Still does. I'm not gonna lie. But
Yeah.
it bothers me because I don't want to be wrong about them. I don't want to
Mm.
see the truth about them. And but I also need to be honest about what it is and also the fact that I don't know why they don't support. I don't know why they don't show it. And it could be because they don't know how, or it could be
Mhm.
some maybe they just they don't care. They're not in that space or they're only good for the things that they're good at. And maybe
Mhm.
that could be enough.
Mhm.
So there's a couple of
Yes.
things I want to touch on with you.
Yeah.
And one is the idea of the emotional aspect of this. Mm. And we can touch on it in regards to what men do, because I know they struggle with it. But there is such a huge emotional component to sobriety in that people, when they finally get rid of whatever it is that they're using to cope, they feel more emotions than they probably ever felt in a very long time. And I like the idea for me of talking about it, even though it's not very popular,
Mhm.
even though I get a lot of guys that kind of look at it like, I'm not ready for that. But I like the idea of talking about it because there's a lot of people, men and women, that are going to succumb to the emotions that they're going to feel.
Mm,
And it's how are you going to tolerate that flood of emotions? Um, and this is not just sobriety, it's grief. It's anything that when you're struggling with a big life change and you're trying to figure out who you are now, and there's a lot of hoops to jump through and hills to climb, there's going to be so many emotions that come along with that. Men typically block it out more. Um, but it's just as important. It's important for everybody to be
yeah.
okay with that.
Such a good point because you would think such a good point because you would think if someone was in recovery and maybe they're like, "I haven't drank in a month." I it's like the not drinking, again, correct me if I'm wrong, the not drinking is one piece, and it's an awesome piece, and it's a huge accomplishment. Now, on the other side of the not drinking, can you the it's almost like the emotions, it's another thing to kind of, I don't know how to say it, but it's like, it's not just stopping drinking.
Right. It's everything else.
It's
It's
actually
it's I put out
everything
the
else.
little post today um of, you know, sobriety didn't give me my life back. It was taking a chance on myself or being kind to myself. It is everything else that sobriety opens up the door for, because I've seen way too many people that they get sober and they feel great, as they should,
Mhm.
but they haven't yet experienced what a bad day was, because they are still in that point where they're so excited about the fact that they're not drinking that
Yes.
it's elevating those emotions. And and at some point, and this is where a lot of people get into trouble, I don't count the days anymore. I don't I don't count the months, the years, it doesn't matter to me. Um, that's my own
Yeah.
personal feeling about it, is that it doesn't it doesn't matter, because at some point everything normalizes to where sobriety after a certain period of time, and it's different for everybody, starts to feel like a Tuesday. And so
Mhm.
I'm not on this sober high anymore. Now I'm just feeling life. Now life just sucks because when the
Like,
days
because
that it
sometimes
sucks,
life sucks.
because sometimes life sucks. And
Yeah.
so if you're not prepared to deal with the things that are in your life that you've either suppressed or you've used something to cope with, and you're operating off of this sober high and
Uh-huh.
excitement, you're going to come crashing down to reality. And so sobriety for me opened the door to feel grief. It opened the door to feel depression when it was time to be depressed, until I was able to sort of figure some of those things out. It opened the door for me to feel the anxiety. And
Yeah.
if I wasn't ready for any of those things, I would have been in a world of hurt,
Mhm.
trying to figure out a way and convince myself not to throw it all because I don't know how to deal with all this stuff at once. And I've seen too many people fall off for it to um, not matter to the extent that people think it doesn't actually matter. They think they're going to be okay after. No,
Mm.
it's just the beginning.
I don't know why I just had this thought because my brain is like all over the place. But when you're saying that, I had a thought of, you know, you know that show Naked and Afraid?
Yeah.
Is it that one, Naked and Afraid, where they drop people in the
Yeah.
like random places and they're like wilderness experts? Tell me if sobriety like if you're not prepared, like maybe it feels like this at first when they drop you in, and then in order to survive in that wilderness, you need tools or you're gonna be freezing and you're gonna like just because you're out of an environment that contains alcohol doesn't mean you're good.
Yeah.
Because you need tools to navigate the wilderness that you're now in, which is like life without alcohol.
Yeah. And you feel to relate it to the show and the premise of the show, you feel exposed. You
Oh.
ev- Everything is just like everything is new and raw and like um you hyper focus on certain things. And so you need tools to survive this. And so you get you just remove the alcohol or the addiction and you're still in the same environment. So naked and afraid in your own apartment. You're probably
Yes.
going to do the same things in your own apartment as you always did because you're still surrounded by the same things.
Mhm.
You remove yourself from that environment. Now you feel, and with no alcohol, now you feel more nervous because you don't know how to operate in the new environment. You're still learning who you are at this point
Mhm.
because you've adapted to a life where everything that you did was supporting an identity of an alcoholic or an addict in some kind of way. Everything that you did. When you're in a marriage, everything that you do as an individual and then collectively supports whatever roles you operate in that marriage. And so you remove yourself from that. Now you're like, who the hell am I? I was the person that did this at this time on this day. And now I don't know what to do. And so
Mhm.
you're going to feel exposed and nervous and you're going to grieve the old person you were, just like you would grieve a relationship. And so you're going to fall into this new life without the thing that you used to protect you, without your clothes in this environment. And you're like, I don't know who I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to do with the new environment around me. And I'm either going to beg to be taken off the show so I can go back to my old environment, or I'm going to have to adapt. And you need the
Mm.
tools in order to protect yourself. And you're going to need tools that you know will work in a certain way at a certain time and you're feeling something. And also, there is something to the idea of you have this weapon when you're in a dangerous place. It gives you a little bit more confidence, even if you never use it. So just knowing that you have this thing
Mm.
in your back pocket, oh, when I feel this way, this is what I'm going to do. There's a chance that you're not going to need it as often as you think you will.
Mm. It's an and you talked about this on another reel. I was, like, on your page for 5 hours today, because I was just like, I every reel I went through, I was like, "Boom, boom, yes," because you talked about, like, identity too.
Yeah.
It's like the drinking is just what you're doing or we're doing, and then, like, welcome to the jungle after that, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know, I'm on this, like, jungle, I don't
No,
know, I don't know what I'm doing,
no,
but
my page is all over the place and sort of for good reason. First,
yeah.
I was coming into this thinking, "I'm gonna be the sober guy." And come to find out, I started operating more from a place of, I am I am the person who dealt with sobriety and learned to navigate the world, learning emotional intelligence and emotional regulation and learning communication and learning how to figure out who I am in this new world. I was still trying to figure out how to handle grief, or I had gotten to the point where I was handling those things. And I am a big psychology nerd. And I started building these systems to put all these things together to where I went from this step to this step, and then I learned how to navigate in this new world. And it wasn't just sobriety anymore. It was going from a place of, I know who I am and I'm
Mhm,
not happy where I am, to now I'm stuck in a world that I don't have an identity anymore. And I want
mhm,
to take the first step, but I can't. And so it's it's morphed in that type of way. And that's
mhm.
when I coached. I coached someone who, and I put one of his comments about me on there. Drinking was a problem of his, but he also was dealing with a semi-recent divorce. He had kids. He was going through little custody things,
Yeah,
and he was trying to learn how to be himself in this new world. And drinking was only a fraction of it. And he was the stereotypical tough guy, never felt his emotions, never showed his emotions. He would get angry. He would drink and get angry. He would, and
yeah,
so he was trying to learn how to be okay with himself. And I walked him through different ways to do it. And some of it is like, okay, I don't want to do that, but okay, I'll do it. And like, oh, that works. Well, yeah, I didn't make it up. So, you know,
you're
um,
like, "No shit,
yeah,
really?"
I'm explaining things in a certain way that gets them to say, okay, that makes sense why it works, or that's a different way to view something. And some people like it, some people don't. I think most
Yeah.
people, but that's
I love I don't know, for me, I don't know if there's a person out there that can't relate to what you just said, that learning how to be okay with yourself. I mean, to be comfortable in your own skin, to not need the validation that you used to need, to it's like that, like, for me, that's more impressive to me than somebody running 5 companies and having a great 401k and living in the whatever neighborhood. It's if I meet someone who's comfortable in their skin, I'm like, I'm so impressed by that
yeah.
because it's so difficult. For for me, it has been very difficult to just, um, be like, "Yeah, I'm Bree, and this is who I am, and I'm this, and I'm this, and I'm" whereas before I used to be like, "Ooh, turn that down, move that alright, what crowd am I in? I gotta don't be too sorry, is that oh," and it's like, ugh, it's exhausting.
It is. It
It's
is.
phony, it's actually phony too. It's
It's
phony.
it's phony, but it's the same little version of yourself that's protecting yourself, right? So it's coming
Yeah.
up and it's saying, I have to be this way to protect. Sometimes it's protecting me from me. If I don't if I don't do something that, if I'm in an environment that I'm not comfortable with, and I stop myself from being my full self, and because I know that that version of me might say something where I embarrass myself because I'm not an extrovert by any stretch. Some people might think I am because I do the
Yeah,
content,
yeah.
but I don't always know how to operate in an environment with people purely on the basis of like socialization or meet and greets for
Yeah.
business purposes and stuff like that. I am not going to fake a conversation with you just for the sake of, oh, did you know who that person over there is? He or she is
Pretty big
pretty.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't you go over there and schmooze a little bit? Like, no, I don't. I don't care. I don't. But if I knew that I was forcing myself to do something and I don't know what's going to come out, and I stop myself from being my full self and then retreat it a little bit, I'm protecting myself.
Mhm.
Is
Yes.
it is it more impressive to be yourself and whatever comes out comes out? Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it
And
is.
so learning to be comfortable with ourselves, but also knowing we're gonna dislike some of the things that we start to become comfortable with is a hard battle to face because we're we're learning where we fit in even in our own life, even if
Mhm.
it's just us and learning to be uncomfortable with the things that we think about and not give ourselves too hard a time for that was a pretty that was a pretty judgmental thought I just had there. You do you want to keep going with that, or you think you want to analyze why you thought that? I think I'll try to figure out why I thought that and then never do it again. But it's difficult as the world tells us who we should be, and if we listen, we'll never be who we are.
Mm-mm. And then you'll find something to to help you. You talked about masks too on your other reel about like putting on masks, taking off masks, whatever. And you're never like if you abandon yourself in these little ways of like, oh, I'm not going to say that. I want them to ugh, too
Yeah,
much. Then when you get in that mirror and you're brushing your teeth, I'm going to be disappointed in myself.
yeah,
I'm like, no, be Brie. And then if 7 out of 10 people leave, I'm still a great hitter, right? I mean, I'm still like, who
right,
cares? Who cares? Because would you rather be on and then have people not reject you or just be yourself and have like 1 or 2?
right, right. You know, it actually reminded me of there was someone, I forgot what the context was. I think I just read it. It said, the only way to ensure that nobody hates something you do or that you've done is to ensure that what you do, nobody loves. So if everybody just hates everything that you do, or they think it's just okay. What if you receive love for something, you're gonna receive hate for something. So make sure nobody
1,000%.
loves it, and you're never gonna have to worry. So if you are just purely yourself, and 7 out of the 10 people leave, I couldn't handle 10 people in my circle anyway. I'm gonna be stuck.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be stuck with the three that are my people.
Yes.
And so you're still an all-star. You're still batting
You're
three, four
still
hundred.
an seriously. I'm looking at the time. I can't believe we've already hit 90 minutes. Just
I know.
I literally we were like because I have many more things I want to ask you about. And before I even like move towards a wrap up, unfortunately, um I wanted to thank you for your service in the military because I should have said that way earlier because I have such respect for the men and women who serve our country. So
I
thank you.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. No, even if you didn't say anything, I wouldn't have looked at it any differently. Like, there's some people that don't like the military, and bless them for their opinions. It doesn't I did what I do, and if people are gonna love it or hate it or be indifferent about it, so I appreciate it.
Course, no, I just, I really we've had a couple veterans on the podcast, and my dad always said, like, if you're in Starbucks and you see a veteran in uniform, you buy their coffee, period, no question to ask. Like, he's old school. He's like, "Bree, these are the rules of life. Someone in a uniform, drop everything, buy them a coffee." Like, it's like
Yeah.
non-negotiable. So I'll have to buy you coffee or send you a coffee or something. Um,
No, I
but I
appreciate
I I think it's so interesting too that you were in the intelligence realm. So your mind must be just thinking a lot.
You know,
L I
yes.
can relate 'cause
Yeah.
I am a ruminator, so
Yeah. People look at me sometimes because I need a haircut right now, but people look at me and they're like, "Oh, you got a military haircut. You obviously you're in the military." I'm like, "No, my hair grows in 45 different directions. I have to keep it short." So, I can't tell you whether or not, um, the way that I think served the military. It wasn't the military shaped the way that I mean, it did a little bit.
y
Um,
y I see
it
what you're
always
saying.
does, but
Yeah.
I think that because I do cyber intelligence now. So I'm still in the field. I work with the military and I still do things that are very just you're analyzing trends and you're trying to plot things to see
Yep.
how it fits in the bigger picture. It helps me in this entire journey. And it helps me sort of relate and pull things out and say, you know what? this this thing, the concept that may help you in your sobriety is connected to this off the wall thing that you never maybe would have made that connection to, but it happens to be the thing that you personally relate to. So now it clicks.
Yes.
And so it it helps me.
Mhm.
At one point it hurt me because I would ruminate and analyze too much.
Yeah, you can become your own prison, and I it it's, we that's, like, the human condition, right? And then, like, we're all here talking and sharing stories on podcasts and with our friends to be like, "Hey, why don't you try this?" Oops, sorry, as I fall off the desk. Like, "Why don't you try this? 'Cause this works," and, "Oh, I tried that, you tried it," and then some random little analogy that might mean nothing to somebody might be a game changer when you're like, "Wait, what?
Yeah.
Holy," and then it's, like, changes what you do and then leads to, like, a breakthrough.
Yeah. Or you think about it later, like, it might have been so off the wall that, like, now you're thinking about it, maybe at a time that you weren't planning on thinking anything, and it just it you never know what's gonna hit somebody,
Yeah.
and I I love the idea of I love the idea of shattering perceptions and shattering these walls that we put up, I spent so much time listening to my thoughts,
Mm,
so much time believing the things that I thought and the things that I would say that I question everything now.
mm,
Point where, and I had mentioned earlier, I know how some people who see me or some people who listen to me perceive how I am.
mhm,
And they see this individual who's very straightforward. I'm a teddy bear.
mm,
I'm the biggest softy in the world. I'll be I'll be as brutally honest
mhm,
when I need to be.
sure.
And but I am absolutely someone who hates the idea of this perception of what a man is supposed to be. And
Same.
I unintentionally lived a certain way
Mhm,
that reflected that ideal and that ideology.
yeah.
And um it was never like a manosphere type of I'm gonna be this kind of brute. It was more from the blocking everything out and carrying myself a certain way to where that was possibly the perception.
Mhm,
And I hate that. I I hate any type of ideology that focuses on uh, segregating one person or one group from another and you
same.
know so when I see something like that, when I see that there's a way to sort of shatter this belief of, hey, I need to be a certain way. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
It's sobriety. You don't have to buy into everything. You don't have to believe every sobriety content creator. You can absolutely hate me and use your hate for me to fuel your own sobriety, and I will support you. Right? So, like, whatever works for you. But there's too much stuff out there, too much information, too much of people telling you who you have to be. And you don't have to listen to any of it, but you do need to discover who it is you actually are. If you're gonna
Yes.
if you're gonna push so far away from one ideology because you dislike it, do yourself a favor and actually discover who you are so you don't just push yourself into another one.
That's so good. That's really good. Because even if you're sober, it doesn't mean you're happy. It means you're not drinking. Like, welcome to the beginning of the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Who are you now? Then it seems like it's like by the way, it's a huge accomplishment. I'm not discounting that. But
Say your piece. I'm here for it.
it's like it seems like it's gathering all the supplies to build the house is like it's like sobriety is allowing you to even start building.
Yeah.
It's like you're gonna build the house wasted, or you're gonna build it sober.
Right. Sobriety, you just pulled the permit. Like so,
Uh,
so
yeah.
now it's you weren't even able to do those things before.
You couldn't get a permit.
And
Couldn't
yeah,
get a permit to build.
you just because somebody's sober doesn't mean they're happy. It doesn't mean they're healthy. It doesn't mean their
Yeah.
mind's right.
Yes.
It doesn't mean, and I talked about this plenty, it doesn't mean you're better than anybody
No.
else. And it's so weird to me when I will never put somebody in sobriety down. I just dislike the other end of it where people in sobriety now look at people that maybe do drink and they try to project those feelings onto them. Because not for nothing, if I could handle my alcohol, I'd still be drinking. So who the hell am I to say anything to anybody? And
Right.
who am I to project the things that I can no longer do, or I can do it? Doesn't mean it's going to be successful,
Yeah.
but I'm I'm choosing to do the right thing for myself. Why would I project my um inadequacy? And that's not the right word.
No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. My inability to do something onto someone else who, if everybody's an individual and everybody knows their own story, who am I to tell you you're an addict? You might be displaying the symptoms, and I think, and this is why being in the intelligence field kind of helps me in a certain way. Like,
You
there's
can tell.
a high likelihood based off of these factors you fit into the category of, and so I can say with a high degree of certainty that you're probably an addict, but I
Sure.
don't know
Mhm.
because that thing's ever 100%. But I am not going to tell somebody who I've told people that thought they were an addict, and they came to me and they said, "What do you think?"
Uh-huh.
After them telling me everything. And I'm like, "No, it doesn't sound like you're an addict at all. You need to cut the shit because you're going down the wrong path, but
Yeah.
you don't display the symptoms, and I can see why you got caught up in this whirlwind."
Yeah.
But to sit here and think I'm sober and I'm therefore better than other people who drink, really? I think that's the wrong take. So, um,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything about you other than congratulations, you've made a great choice for yourself. You have now put yourself where you're running a different race with someone else
Mm.
who may have been a little bit ahead at the time. You've now put yourself in the same race, and now it's your opportunity and your personal responsibility to do the right things for yourself to make you as successful in whatever way you deem success and make you as happy and healthy and as good of a person as you could possibly be.
Yeah.
I would never look at somebody who's sober, who is just a horrible person, and say, you're great because you're sober. Yeah, it's debatable.
Humility and yeah. 'cause in, like, the wellness space too, it's sort of this, like, "Now, here" it's like, "Stop." Like, you're not like, "Stop." Like, or, some of the podcasts where
Right.
podcasters are just like, and it's like, "Take it down.
Yep.
Take it down." Like, "You're not that cool. You're still human, and life will still kick you in the teeth."
Right.
So, because
Right.
it kicks all of us in the teeth.
Yeah.
Not because you're a bad person, it just will. It's adversity. Life
Yeah.
is challenges. Um,
But like
Joseph,
you
oh, go
said,
ahead.
well, I'll say one more thing. Like you
Yeah,
said, that
yeah, no, I
it's
was
like,
just like, I know you have something after this
yeah,
too, so I
I
wanna be
do, but
conscious.
I'll say this and I'll be done. It's like when you were saying about the person who owns 5 businesses, right? Versus someone who is just unapologetically themselves. The person who looks or is extremely successful, they are extremely good at one thing. It does not equate to being extremely good everywhere else. So a person
Mm,
who's successful doesn't mean they're going to be happy, doesn't mean they don't have their own problems. Maybe it means they've spent so much time hyper focusing on that one thing that they are horrible in other ways. And maybe their relationship's falling apart because they're not a great communicator outside of the business world.
sure,
Right. So
sure.
just because somebody has gotten sober, it's still contingent upon them to do the rest of the work to make sure that they are as complete a person as possible. But it starts with that first step. So I appreciate it. I appreciate
Oh,
you.
beautiful. And Joseph, I am not surprised by how much I enjoyed this conversation because I love your content, genuinely. Like, love it. I really I just it's when someone's authentic, and I really it resonates. It, I learned something from every reel I watched where I'm just like, "Oh, that's cool. That's cool." Um and so I just wanted to thank you again for coming on the podcast, for being open about your struggles, especially as a man, because I think I I hate that men have a perception, or society, or wherever it came from, that they can't, like, have an ugly cry. Like,
Right.
go cry. Like, you're actually like, go man up and have an ugly cry,
Yeah.
right?
I'm actually 10 minutes late for a good cry right now. So
I mean, I always cry it out, right? So I just wanted to thank you. I'm putting a link when this is live. Look down, everybody. A link to your website, to your Instagram, to all the things. And Joseph, are you currently now coaching people as well?
yeah, I am. I
That's
am.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a beautiful thing too. And I say it's a disservice if you have a perspective, if you have information and a different way of looking at things and didn't give it back. And so I hope that when people see this, they, especially in comparison to some of the content with how people might view me, there is a softer person in here. And it's not always this rough and gruff kind of, but like you said, I want people to see someone who is being genuine, someone who's not going to BS.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's the most important thing. And yeah, so I am coaching, and I've told people, hey, if I'm not the right fit, beautiful, go find that person, and I'll even help you find that person because I really only care about other people getting well and keeping myself well.
And that is what we need in the world right now, because a lot of people are hurting. Men, women, kids, older people who are retired. I mean, everybody needs some help, and some this podcast, one of my taglines is like, inspiring conversations to remind you that you're not alone.
Yeah,
We're all battling something, and it's okay. So
absolutely.
everything you just said is making it okay for someone out there to either be not okay, or to like start rebuilding their life. So I appreciate it.
Okay to be not okay.
It
Absolutely.
is. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up episode 99. Thank you so much, Joseph. And everybody, please take care of yourself. Check out Joseph's information. Shoot him a note if you need a little encouragement. Give him a like if you like something, comments, all the things. Just engage, because don't stay stuck. Don't stay
Yeah.
stuck.
If you
Uh,
hate something, tell me about that too. I'll be glad to bounce it with you.
oh, I love it, Joseph, when I wake up and I'm like, ooh, zinger, somebody hates me today. Damn. And then the next minute you're like, someone loves me today. Either way, it doesn't matter. What do I think of you?
If you're hating me, at least you're feeling emotions.
You're
And
feeling
I'm
something.
okay with that.
And with that, everybody, we're going to sign off and take care of yourself.
Thank you.
All right.